Now here's what I will say about this movie. The acting for what it was supposed to be, I thought Margot Robbie was fantastic at playing Barbie. I thought that
Ryan
Gosling was good at playing Ken. I thought the production of the film, the aesthetics of the film were great. If they took out if the only part about this movie that I do not like is the fact that they had this massive agenda. I would say buried, but it's not buried. It's basically talked about it's literally talked about the entire film, to the point where in the beginning it talks about how baby dolls were the thing, and it was all about motherhood, and then Barbie comes along and then kills baby dolls. Literally in the movie, kills baby dolls, and she's another thing.
So let's get rid of motherhood.
So let's get rid of
motherhood.
Yeah.
Playing with hang on. Playing with baby dolls is equivalent to motherhood?
Yes, that was the whole point.
That was the whole point of the opening monologue.
That's what they got to. It's like, let's get out of motherhood and focus on just being a woman and doing whatever. That was very thickly laid on.
They even they said it.
Yes.
When?
In the opening monologue, they said it when the girls are
they're doing the whole 2001 Space Odyssey thing.
Yeah. Right, and then the girls take the baby dolls and start breaking their heads off and throwing them up and then killing them, and then it was so bad.
It was bad. It was bad, but I didn't take it as, now we're getting rid of motherhood. It was just like, I do not want to play with a baby doll anymore. I want a toy. You are both reading way too much into that. A little girl does not want to play with a baby. A little girl wants to play with a doll. That's all that was. It's the same way. It's the same way with boys. Boys grow up playing with really soft, fluffy things, and then eventually we want trucks and toys that can hurt people. It's the same concept for a woman. I do not want a baby doll anymore. I want a Barbie because I can dress it up and I can whatever. What does that have to do with motherhood?
Because they actually say it in the opening monologue.
I do not think they come out and say we're killing motherhood. I do not think those words were uttered.
What did they actually say?
I don't remember the exact.
I find it very hard to believe that there was a sentence, the death to motherhood, or we're killing motherhood. I do not think that was uttered. I don't remember that.
They said something along the lines of, you're tired of motherhood. If you don't think that's a thing, just ask your mother. It was basically saying that mothers hate their children and just want to move on and do their own thing.
Wow. Okay.
They said it.
That is not.
It was a joke.
You cannot.
It was a joke meant to.
Hang on.
It was a joke meant to make women laugh. But in turn, it's basically saying motherhood sucks. Laugh about how motherhood sucks and move on.
Okay,
let's move on to dressing up
what
Barbie
you're saying
and
is true,
buying a Malibu.
If what you're saying is true, then why write in a mother and a daughter, showing that motherhood does not suck?
Exactly why I say this movie made no sense and was all over the place.
I think you're reading way too much into it. This is typical. Never mind. I'm not getting into that. You cannot. Okay, I'm done. I think that's a reach.
What do you got, Chuck? I think it was pretty laid on. It was laid on pretty thick.
You do not make a movie. You do not make a movie that starts off by saying motherhood sucks, and then showing a mother struggling to connect with her daughter, desperately trying to connect with her daughter. That doesn't make any sense.
You don't. Yeah, you shouldn't have made this movie. Exactly. Good point. You got it. This movie shouldn't have been made. Got it.
I agree.
Okay.
I thought this was hot trash. I thought it was hot garbage. Which is, I wanted a movie. I don't care if we have big argument on this podcast right now because it doesn't bother me at all.
No, this was your plan.
This was
your plan from the get-go.
Did you say gecko?
Gecko. Hey, you could save hundreds of money on your car insurance by switching to Geico.
Say something. I'm looking at this.
Yeah. Well, you know what movie was also hot trash? I'm gonna say this because the next movie we talk about is going to be a movie that our friend Aaron recommended to us. And that is Highlander: The Source. So, without getting into many details, let's just say Freddie Mercury is probably rolling in his grave. At this point, I'll leave it there because I'll just say twice twice they just took Queen and just went like all over them.
Yeah. There was a lot. There was a lot in that movie that I was just like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
It basically turned into Power Rangers at one point.
It didn't from the get-go? Like, from the beginning, it basically was like, we want this movie to be Power Rangers, but we can't call it Power Rangers.
Okay. Did you find what you were looking for, Chuck,
No,
about
I couldn't.
Barbie? All right. Well, let's move on then.
So the whole thing is, even Ryan Gosling in the movie was looking at the whole let's bring patriarchy to Barbie land. And here's
I love how he used like everything he says. Like he uses everything grammatically incorrect.
He doesn't know.
Right.
He did not know what the word patriarchy meant.
Not at all. Not at all.
None.
He thought it was
Zero-
like men
zero
have
idea.
horses and a mojo kojo, dojo, casa home. Like
and then they're selling it in real life. Like what? It made no sense.
None.
The fact that she's trying to at the end she wants to bring a part of the human world into Barbie world, and then it actually goes back to the way it used to be, and nothing ever changes. Ken needs Barbie throughout this whole movie. Ken is there for the existence of Barbie. Now,
Barbie was created. Ken was later on created, which, I mean, we can go Adam and Eve and go backwards here, but, and say, okay, Barbie's created, then Ken was created because Barbie needed,
right.
Needed somebody there. So already just the existence of Barbie and the way that she came in and then they brought Ken in was very much the opposite of, creation. And then here, they're just saying that, like, the only reason that Ken exists is because of Barbie.
Right.
And then she's like, no, get over it, move on. End credits. Like, that's basically what I got there. Men should hate men, or men should hate women should hate men, move on with their lives, and
Right.
just do whatever they want to do.
I wish they ended it with Barbie actually liking Ken.
Getting over it and being like, you know what, Ken's been here the entire time. But that would be cliche and obvious, just like every other movie that, anybody's ever watched.
I would have liked that ending for this movie.
That would have redeemed this movie somewhat for me. Her,
See,
ge-
I
her
always
getting her head out of her butt and realizing this dude has been there the entire time.
Right. If they made this movie like an actual fair, like, so here's the exact movie. Will, you probably have never seen this movie. I don't know if you have because of your daughters, but Disney made a movie called Enchanted.
We've talked about it. I've read about it. I almost watched
Enchanted is this movie where she is a fairy tale princess.
Amy
blah, blah,
Adams.
blah, Amy Adams, and she lives
it. Cyclops.
in animation world.
Uh-huh.
She is an animated fairy princess. There is a portal through this well that connects her from her world to the real world. It's a lot easier than going from riding a boat to flying a spaceship to rollerblading to driving a car for 16 miles to all of this stuff that gets you to the real world from Barbie world. But she falls into this well. She comes out and she's real life. Yes.
Yes.
And then her prince in the animated world finds his way out, and all of a sudden he's chasing her. And then the cool thing is, at the end of that movie, those two don't end up together. Mm-hmm. He goes back to the animated world. A girl that he falls in love with in real world goes back with him. She falls in love with a guy in real life and then stays in real life. But it has a happy ending on both sides. They both kind of get what they want in the long run. In this movie,
Ken is me. Like it
doesn't end. This is why I say, for me, this movie was a giant middle finger to all of to male existence. That is the underlying expression for this film. If they took that agenda out, this movie would have been fine.
So the agenda is a middle finger to men because it's telling men to stop pining after a woman that doesn't love you and move on with your life. That's the middle finger to men?
No, the middle finger to men is this, that patriarchy is...
No, we're off that because this movie does not know what patriarchy is.
True.
No idea. No clue. This movie does not understand the meaning of the word patriarchy.
Exactly. That's why they don't understand what feminism is in this movie is either.
No, they don't.
Like she has the red pill, blue pill, for example.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Which one do I
Yeah.
take?
And she's smacking her in the face, like, with a sandal. Like, no, you're making the wrong choice.
You have to go this route. I'm making you go this route. Well, I want to take the blue pill though. I don't want to take the red pill. But no, you're gonna take it no matter what. And she gets into real world, and not a single guy in the real world is smart.
No. So, let's go way back. So, for years, since the 50s, entertainment has been making men more oafish and making them the butt of the comedy, which has been taking away the leadership role of the man in households. Because now it's been, I hate to say it, but the reality is, yes, there was a point where men ruled over women, and it seemed like that, where it's like, no, you're subservient, do what I say, and that's it. It was a dictatorship in the home.
Right.
But then came this whole feminist movement, pushing, and say Barbie, let's say Barbie helped with that, whatever. The point was, they took it and went way off in the other direction, to the point where men were no longer having the respect and the honor that they should have. Anything that would keep things in a certain line, in a certain order. I'm not saying this because I'm some kind of masculine, jerk dictator. I'm saying it because we went from one side of the spectrum to the opposite side of the spectrum, and entertainment has been pushing that and pushing that and pushing that.
Right.
It's not very often you watch a movie and the woman is the klutz, and the woman is the one who's messing everything up. And it's always the guy messes up. TV shows, it's always a sitcom. A sitcom
Everybody loves Raymond.
Everybody loves Raymond. Perfect example. Always the guy who messes everything up. Home Improvement. I always think about Home Improvement. His wife, yeah, she was emotional, but she was also smarter than Tim, who kept bumping his head, doing dumb things. And they've been pushing that and pushing that and pushing that. And this movie, I feel like, is the peak of what they've been trying to do for the past 50 years in film and in television, is making us to be the dummies, the ones who screw everything up, and we're the butt of every joke.
Right.
Hey, if we want to be equal and make jokes, or if we want to be equal, let's do everything equally. Okay,
Correct.
I understand there's a point of this, but let's make the kid's an idiot. They did that in World's Greatest Dad. The kid was actually an idiot, and the dad's covering it up by writing this letter. Like, the kid was an idiot, and he knew his kid was an idia, so he did that.
The kid was
like,
a jerk in that movie.
He was a jerk, and he was an idiot, and he killed himself because he was stupid.
Yeah,
because of what he did. And it's like, that was refreshing, and it took Bobcat Goldthwait to give us that movie, of all people. But the reality is this: everything else in mainstream media makes the dude a dummy.
Right.
Like, even Thor. Let's. I'm not jumping here, but Thor. In order to make Thor understandable and relatable, they had to make him stupid. Thank you. I'll have another. They had to make him, not know what the heck he was doing, fish out of water.
Right.
To make him somewhat relatable, to bring him down. And then they pushed that. And then later on, when they did Ragnarok is basically Barbie, but not as much. Making him the idiot the entire time. We're going to come back and with children. And, not like that was children. Oh, never mind. Oh, no, not again. We're not going to do that. He kept saying dumb things. He was the dummy, and Jane was the hero. They've been really pushing this, making this harder and harder for, things to just be equal.
Right.
And now we've got a ton of men who are living as women because they think that women just have it better, because they don't want to be looked at as the oafish guy.
Right. And it's crazy too. Now, to your point, Will, if they made Barbie as the answer to G.I. Joe, let's say the answer to they had the little green G.I. Joes, and they had the bigger.
Well, those weren't, the green ones are not G.I. Joes; those are just army men.
Oh, that's right. Those are army men.
Yep.
If Barbie is the answer to G.I. Joe, if Barbie is to girls what G.I. Joe is to boys, and they left it at that, fine. I would be perfectly okay with that. That's how it was. And here's the thing too: is the first 30 years of Mattel, the CEO was a woman.
Yeah,
So
she got
50
wrapped up in a whole bunch of tax problems, so she had to step down. Yeah.
Should have stepped
which
down.
they explained in the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, they also show a boardroom full of Men.
Just men.
In real life-
and one questioning whether or not he was a woman.
Right.
Because he was. Yeah.
In real life, the board is exactly 50-50 men to women.
Uh-huh.
Exactly 50-50 men to women in real life.
Right.
Okay.
But they're not, but they couldn't. Why couldn't they show that in the movie?
Well, because they had to portray men as
as
the enemy.
as
I love
powerful
how
enemy.
I love how one movie comes out that portrays men in a negative light. It's like everything is against men. When you have hang on, when you have the highest paid people in Hollywood right now are men.
Are you sure?
Dwayne Johnson is the highest paid actor in Hollywood right now, and he has been for several years. I
Never
don't
said
know
I
any.
agreed with that.
What? Look it up. I don't know
said-
when. Look it up.
I
I'll
said,
wait.
I don't agree with that. I don't think he should be.
But you're saying that what now? You just got through saying that this movie, and they've been trying to push a narrative and agenda for the past 50 years, and now they're doing it. I'm going to.
You're
prove
saying
that
highest paid. You're saying highest paid. I don't think anybody should be the highest paid. I think that we should pay people equally at that point.
What movie-
We've gone
okay.
from.
Explain to me. Okay, explain to me then. The most popular movies over the past 20 years have been the MCU. What besides Thor in a fat suit? What do you have that illustrates that any man in that movie is made to look like the buffoon?
Spider-Man,
Every sitcom.
Thor,
Hang on, no.
Ant-Man.
How is Ant-Man the buffoon?
He's the buffoon the entire time.
The first one.
Hope is ripping on him the entire time. She completely bests him all the time. Hope is better than him. The fact that he wins at the end of the last movie was a joke because he had nothing going for him, and somehow he beat the most powerful being that existed. And then suddenly
that's
a
plot
portal
armor.
opens back up.
That's plot
and
armor.
then
That doesn't have
I can go home. That makes zero sense.
The plot armor at the end of that movie really doesn't have anything to do with feminism, though.
I understand that, but my point is, you're asking me how I think that Ant-Man didn't, deserve it or whatever. But the point is, he was completely the joke of everything, yet somehow still
Even in first Thor, Natalie Portman
still
was smarter than Thor
absolutely.
by far.
Yep.
Does it matter?
He was the
And the second one, they tried to turn the tables, and everybody hates that movie because it made no sense.
Right.
Because she was just like, let me touch the red stuff. And then she was in a trance the whole movie. And
she
he
was the red stuff.
Yeah, she was the red stuff. And then again, after that, she dumped him, and he turns into the Big Lebowski, and he just sits there sad the whole time and becomes Fat Thor. And then the next time you see them together again in Thor Ragnarok, he's a joke.
Oh,
and then you see him, and then Love and Thunder, an even bigger joke.
Okay.
You don't see it?
No.
Okay.
In every sitcom from the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, it was when you had the Brady Bunch.
Eh.
It was more equal than it was. Then you got into the 80s, you got into the 90s, and in the 90s it started going to. That's when you had the Tim Allens, the Everybody Loved Raymond, all of those ones where guys were the buffoon and the massive idiot, and the wife was, the smart one. I'm fine with that. Friends started off. Friends started off in the first season where Joey, Matthew, for his last name, was the lowest paid out of the six of them. Come the 10th season, they were actually all paid exactly equal. Nobody was paid more than the other ones. And Jennifer Aniston was actually the highest paid one, along with the guy who played Ross, for most of the series. She was one of the highest paid ones out of all six of that entourage. So there are plenty of women CEOs. There are plenty of women bosses. If you go to most banks have women managers.
I'm not disagreeing with you when it comes to real life. My issue right now is how you're telling me that this movie is telling you that man bad, feminism good.
Because it
Just give me one at a time. If you want to do this, one at a time. All right? So I need just one at a time.
So when you hear what's her name's monologue, the girl, the young girl, and she's like, or the mom, when she's like, either you're too skinny or you're too fat or you're too this or you're too that.
Oh, yeah.
What she's saying is that man has this expectation on women that's just not achievable.
There was a lot of things going on in her dialogue that weren't specific to men and women. There was a lot of dialogue there that was specific to women against women.
It was the way I took it was women feel this way because man requires them to do it. Men want women to look a certain way, to act a certain way, to be a certain way.
It's the way she portrayed it.
She never said because man.
Regardless,
Hang on,
all
no,
she
let
was
me-
doing
let me-
was saying
let me
being
finish.
a woman sucks because of all these things. Not understanding anything else, not being equal about it. The whole thing was just lifting up women and saying this is why women should be treated XYZ way, because all of these things.
Right.
Women should be treated XYZ way when she's listing out a whole bunch of problems that aren't just specific towards men and women. She's listing
was all about women.
she's listing problems that are man and women and looking inward, women on women. Like she's listing problems in general. I don't understand how that is an
Right here.
agenda.
I'm going to read this entire monologue.
Okay.
You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the time. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. You're supposed to stay pretty for men, but not so pretty that you tempt them too much or that you threaten other women because you're supposed to be a part of their sisterhood. But always stand out and always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but also always be grateful. You have to never get old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. I'm just tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us. And if all of that is also true for a doll just representing women, then I don't even know. She literally...
the both of you just said that she has this dialogue that is very anti-male. That was not anti-male.
I said
that was
woman.
No, stop. You both just said she gave a dialogue in this movie that is basically saying anything anti-male and male's fault. That's not what that just read. That is
I
a
said it's all
litany.
about women.
I did not say you relax. Both of you said that. Let's be clear. Both of you just said that. He just read the monologue. He listed out a laundry list of complaints that any living person could have. That isn't
Said
man.
women.
That isn't man specific. That is
It
not.
said women.
So what? It's not specific to men. She did not
It was
say.
specific to women. It was specific to women.
That's
It was
not what
just
you
women.
said. That's not how
She-
you just
so-
said it. You just
No.
got through saying there is a monologue that is anti-male, and she basically says that everything is Ben's fault. That is
Hold
not
on a
what
second.
that
Do
dialogue
you think that I'm
read.
Chuck? Do you think that I'm Chuck?
I'm
Because you're saying
talking
both
to
of us
both of
this.
you.
I understand that, but we are not a unit.
Hold on.
Just so you understand.
I apologize. I missed the very first paragraph of her monologue. This is what she starts out with. It is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. Like we always have to be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. It is impossible to be a woman. And then when she goes through this list of stuff and then says in the middle of it,
Yeah,
that
you listed 2 or 3 things that are man specific, which is perfectly fine. I agree with you 100% there. That is very male specific. Everything else on that list can be applicable to men too. It's not just about women.
I agree with you.
But the thing is, it's ridiculous that you're thinking that this movie has this unbelievable agenda that's anti-male. You tried to prove it by reading me a monologue that wasn't male specific.
But she was talking about being a woman. She was
So,
not saying
that's not my
this is what it's
point.
like to be human. Human. She never said human. She's talking specifically about being a woman. That is what I said. Okay? I said
You are now
she is
shifting the
talking about being a
goalpost.
woman.
You are now
No.
shifting. Yes, you are.
You missed
both-
what I said before. No, he said something about men. I said she is talking about being a woman.
She is talking about being a woman. What I'm saying by this is, yes, she's talking about being a woman. A woman. She's talking about being a woman. But in this, what she is saying is, it is impossible to be a woman because these are the expectations that men have on women.
That she did not know. You listed a lot of things. There were 2 or 3 things on that list that were expected of women on part
there's
of
a
men.
valid point there that he's
Everything else
getting at.
hang on, everything else that you read from that list, you can go through it bullet point by bullet point. I don't care. It can be applicable to men as well. Can be
Of course it can.
Can be applicable to women dealing with other women. You could say that this is just as much about peer pressure from other women as it is about male expectation. I find it really difficult to swallow that you're just pointing at men and saying men bad when that's not what that monologue read.
Which if the movie showed that there was any other pressure from women around them. In fact, when you're in Barbie Land, there was zero pressure from women.
No, that's a lie. That's a lie. The movie opens up with her dancing and going, "Do any of you think about death?" And everybody stops. She is peer pressured into changing her mind because other women want her to.
That's
what?
Because,
no, come on, no.
That's because
valid.
She is. Everyone was questioning her because that's not who she was supposed to be. Because she was stereotypical Barbie, and all of a sudden, she is ruining what Barbie Land is supposed to be. Up until that point, when the real-life woman was actually having these thoughts and drawing this picture, her emotions were connected to Barbie at that point. Up until that point, everything in Barbie Land between women everything was cohesive. There was zero peer pressure from other Barbies to other Barbies. It was all, hey Barbie, hey Barbie, hey Barbie, great Barbie, great Barbie. And then as soon as
she strays off, they immediately attack her. But that's my point. They did do it. You said there's never any peer pressure in this movie. There's never a moment. You said there's never a moment, and there was. There was a couple. There was the other moment. There was another moment later on when what's her name from SNL shows up and she's supposed to be wacky or weird Barbie or whatever. They're not on the same page about what should be happening right there. That's not male bad. That's female on female disagreements. This is not, you can't, no. And again, the reason why it was that way is because this movie has no idea what the word patriarchy means. So, boom.
This movie has no idea what a good movie is.
No,
right.
Absolutely not.
They could not hit it.
I don't know how it made over $1 billion in the box office.
I can't believe we're as far as we are into this conversation. We're still talking about it. Like, I'm sorry. I took a step out for a moment and just heard the conversation happening. We are 3 grown men arguing about Barbie. Okay, can we just remember this for a moment?
Yes.
Just for a moment. We are 3 grown males arguing about a movie about Barbie.
I get that, but it's also the biggest hit of the year right now.
I'm going to tap dance. I'm going to tap dance on a nerve right now, and if I do, I really don't care. I'm going to say something, and if either one of you want to get pissed at me for it, so be it. We can argue about it. I think you two are reading a lot into this movie that just isn't there. This is a dumb movie about 12-inch tall people with no genitalia. This is a stupid movie about a doll that wants to be a real person, and that's all it is. This is a movie made for and viewed by women. That is it. Barbie has been the same symbol for the past 60 years. Ken has been the same thing for the past, however old Ken is at this point. I really don't know. That's the point. That's the beginning and end of what should be the discussion surrounding Barbie. All of this other nonsense is just, I'm going to say it, it's just Ben Shapiro fanning the flames. That's all it is. That's all it is. That's the only reason why a certain side of the aisle is so upset about this movie is because Ben Shapiro gave it a negative review, and this is how he took it. I'll say his name. I don't care. That's exactly what it is. If you actually sat down and watched the movie, yeah, are there some things in there that are very pro-feminine? Of course! It's a movie for women! That's it. I do not hear an army of people complaining. I don't hear an army of people complaining that the Mission Impossible franchise is too masculine. That's never going to happen. I don't hear people complaining that, wow, Vin Diesel is a little bit too jacked in Fast and the Furious. This is a little bit too much. You don't hear those arguments.
You don't. But if they made a movie, and you don't hear arguments either when they do a romance movie, or
That's because you're getting what you want there. You're getting the happy ending, and you're getting the man and women together by the end.
I'm saying
that's the only reason why. That's the only reason why that's perfectly acceptable.
If they did this movie in reverse, and they actually had the same agenda where they were trying to promote patriarchy and destroy feminism, it would fail.
Oh yeah,
it would fail in the box office.
It would fail before it even got.
It wouldn't even make
No.
the cutting room floor. Probably, it would fail. Because it doesn't go with the agenda that people are looking for to fit that agenda. Once it fits that narrative, then it will work. That's why Tim Allen, when he did Home Improvement, it was blowing up because he was an idiot man. Then he later on in older life did Last Man Standing, where he was actually the smart husband. He was successful.
So hang on. So I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you straight. Are we saying that anytime an actor or actress falls down and is being made to look like the buffoon, we have to end physical comedy? How do you feel about Dick Van Dyke?
No, I don't. I'm not saying that at all.
It's the same thing.
I loved Home Improvement.
Hang on. Dick Van Dyke and Home Improvement are basically the same show. Dick Van Dyke was a buffoon. He was falling down. He didn't know what he was doing, and Elizabeth Montgomery had the upper hand on an intellectual level a lot of the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's one case.
I loved Home Improvement. I grew up on Home Improvement. But when he did Last Man Standing, and he was, when it was on, I think it was on ABC for the longest time before Fox took it over, because of who Tim Allen is and the message that it was given, they actually tried to cancel the show on him until Fox bought it out.
I have no idea I have no idea what Last Man Standing was
Last Man
about,
Standing.
So.
Yeah.
He was a regular American guy who promoted America, who promoted American pride, who was a successful guy who worked hard, took care of his family, and did all of that stuff. And he was a man's man. And ABC, and it was becoming one of their biggest shows ever. And in the middle of it, ABC canceled it and said, no, because you're not following our agenda. So then Fox picked it up, and they continued. And they
had that episode where Tim Taylor showed up, and they had that little crossover.
They had a crossover with Tim Taylor. They had a crossover with Al Borland came into it.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas came into it. They all came into it.
Yep.
Jill was his neighbor.
Yep.
It was actually, and they would talk over a fence. It was pretty. It was pretty funny.
Patricia Richardson.
But because it did not fit their agenda, their narrative, they canceled the show. This movie in reverse, if this was G.I. Joe, if they made G.I. Joe the way they made this movie, it would have failed, even though G.I. Joe failed.
Yeah, well, G.I. Joe was garbage.
It was garbage too. But yeah, for me, it's just, that's what it is for me. It was just.
So I'd say overall the movie was, I spent the entire time of the movie, and so let's take a step back, agendas aside, looking at the movie as a film. Did I feel the film was cohesive? I feel like it could have been. I feel like they could have told a single story, and it would have made sense. But I feel like I spent the entire time going, there's not enough information.
Nope.
We don't know what the actual mission is and what the end goal result is. I mean, okay, very basic story. She's getting cellulite and dying.
Because someone's saying it. And someone drew it.
Because somebody's playing with her, and she needs to go back and convince them to not be sad so she can live as a plastic Barbie doll.
Which would if it was just that story, that would have been fine.
Okay, like I guess that was the idea, but I feel like that was such a disjointed storyline. Like it was the very, very like faint underlying line that they were following. But everything else was just so confusing. I mean, I don't understand that I'm Just Ken dance scene where suddenly this is happening, that's happening. Like, it was all over the place. And you got Gravik over there dancing. I mean,
Yeah, Gravik,
that threw me off so much. You got Shang-Chi and Gravik
Yeah.
here. And I couldn't take Gravik's... I mean, you can't take anybody seriously, I guess. But it was just like, okay, what are they going in with here? Like, what is the point? Like, is she gonna finally get the rocks out of her head and realize that somebody here like just really cares about her? No, get over yourself, get over everything that you were created for, and move on. Realize that you're a person that you needs to figure out what you need to do.
Right.
That was the end result.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but that's not how you finish any story. It's just like, no, I'm right and you suck. Move on. Wow. Okay. What were they trying to portray there?
Yeah.
That's what makes me go, the ending of this didn't fit in with everything else. I'm here to see my gynecologist. What, did she suddenly just grow a vagina?
In the real world, yes. But that's the thing. That's why I say the whole
made no sense.
The whole.
You're not gonna listen. You're not gonna hear me. You're not gonna hear me defending this movie and the plot at all. The movie makes zero sense. Zero sense. It does not know what it wants to be at all. I am in full agreement with both of you on that. I just think that maybe there are people who are reading a little bit too much into it. It's a dumb movie about a doll.
Hey everybody, Lee from Black and White Reviews here. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in, checking out our conversation. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more about this specific subject or other things, check us out on our podcasting sites, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, or Google Podcasts. We're up on pretty much all of them. So yeah, thanks again for popping by, and be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.